been too long.
She's excited.
Good evening. It is Thursday, March 22nd, 2018, at 7:30 p.m. We are being recorded live and for future rebroadcasting. If we could please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Because of the shift in the schedule, we don't have a student representative tonight. She's otherwise occupied with majorettes. So we'll move first right into the public comment and communications. If anybody has anything that's not already on the agenda that they'd like to discuss. Seeing none, we're going to go right into the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. So the first item on the agenda is to talk a little bit about our present 17-18 school calendar, which has been, like every school district in the state, adversely impacted by what has been an unfriendly March for sure, and also with some a number of snow days. So as of today, we have had 7 no school days, which would then move our original final date, which was June 13th, out to June 22nd, which is a Friday. It is the last Friday before the last week in June. We've only, in the 10 years that I've been here, I think we only once have gone into the last week of June, especially in light of the fact, and that was when we didn't start before Labor Day. This year, we started before Labor Day. So we are, we've been having an awful lot of days. We've also had 2 delayed openings. We've also had 1 early release day, and we dodged 2 bullets this week by not having any time lost to bad weather. Right now, with regards to one of the issues that is of concern is time on learning. When you go into early release and additional delayed openings, you're losing time on learning. So we did take a look at the buildings. The only building that really is even remotely close is the high school, and they still have 27 hours to play with before they would get to 990, which is the bad part. So they're not there as of yet. As you know, we're not done with winter. Those who have a good memory would remember that there was the April Fool's storm a few years ago. Then there was also a May storm a few years before that. So at this point, we never know what the surprises are going to bring to us. So what we're seeing in the district are some school districts that are concerned that if they have any additional days, they're going to go over and have to go, and there are some options for that. Right now, we're at the 22nd. Some things for the committee to consider is the possibility of taking the Good Friday back and making it a half day, which would get us 1 day back, and that would give us a little bit of room before we would end up in the last week of June. Should we have a couple of days, then we're going to be up against getting all of our days in before the end of June. Other schools, I think you've seen, are doing some Saturday schools. I didn't. I have in my career had to teach on a Saturday a few times. It is not a warm fuzzy that the students bring on a Saturday morning, if you can imagine. And I don't know whether or not the committee wants to take a look at some of those situations, and if not, if they want to possibly look at approving, or because next Good Friday is actually next Friday, so I bring it up only because we don't really have an opportunity to say, you know, we could, if we go forward, we could use, it's upon us. So I didn't know whether or not that was something that the committee would want to entertain. A lot of districts have done that. It's purely up to you. I do have the regulations here, and I've been looking at them quite a bit the last couple of days. One of the things to keep in mind is that it says here that all days lost to health, weather, or safety emergencies between April 1st and June 1st must be made up to ensure 180 school days. And it says that it's provided that it is before the 185th day. So the April 1st to June 1st days have to be made up if we have not gone beyond 185. We have gone by 185, therefore, anything that happens between April 1 and June 1, it seems we do not necessarily have to make up. So we only have a few days left in March, and, right, exactly, but anything beyond April 1, because we've already gone beyond the 185th day that we had planned, it does not appear that we would need to make those days up. The other issue that I wanted to talk about was graduation. And so I did do some looking at this, and the law indicates that, because I've received a few questions on graduation, the regulation says that if your graduation is more than 12 days before the last day of school, that's a problem. Ours is not, it's 8 days before it was originally 8 days before the close of school. So, the question, as I interpret this, is that we do not, at this point in time, have to move graduation, which I'm sure our seniors are very happy to hear. Because our original date was only 8 days out, we do not have to do not have to move graduation from June 1st, as I interpret the law. So there were some questions about that. I thought it would be best to get it out there and discuss it. So we do not, as I see it, do not have to move the graduation, because I know people are concerned about people coming in from out of state, flights, and so on and so forth. So I think that that covers the concerns that might be surfacing with regards to the number of days we've missed and how the regulations read. And I think that if there's questions, I can try to answer them, but we have had a lot of days out, and I wonder what's going to happen in the next week or so.
Is there a storm forecasted for this coming weekend into Monday?
There was some talk of snow next week, and I can't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday that I saw. But then again, yeah, but hopefully not enough to disrupt us going to school. But if my point was that if it happens and we do have storms next week and we don't vote to take Good Friday, you wouldn't be able to do it because we don't have a chance to meet. So.
Can we vote on it based on the fact if we have to take a day off, then we would go to school on Good Friday, but if it doesn't happen, then we don't need to?
So it would be between now and next Thursday, I think, so it's 1 week. Because after that, it would be April 1st is the following week, I believe, right? Right.
Yeah, April 1st is
Yep.
Easter.
I know in the past, we've
Right.
done,
We did do it Good Friday one year, I think.
We have. This is not the first time that we've done it. We've done it, I think, a couple of times in the time that I'm here. I'm just looking at calendar to make sure that I'm right on that.
Yes,
So,
it's 10 days from now, right?
yeah, so next Friday is the 30th, and that's the Good Friday, and then obviously the following week is April 1st, so.
Question,
Yep.
why, if you're gonna go to school on Good Friday, why wouldn't you just make it a full day instead
For
of
the
a half day?
Religious
just for-
observance.
Okay. Okay, thank you. What is everybody's thought about adding Good Friday to kind of give us that buffer for the end of the year?
I'm for it.
Has any conversation happened with the staff about it?
There were some questions that were raised. Were we considering it? But I have not talked with any of the DTA members at all about it. But it is in our purview to set the calendar.
When we did it last time, didn't we do it with if there's a religious reason why your child
Correct.
can't go?
They would be granted an excused absence, right? Same with faculty.
I think it gives us that buffer instead of bumping into Monday.
No.
The only thing is,
Yeah.
Just end of the 22nd. Instead of the 22nd, it wouldn't be an extra, Courtney's concern was, were we adding another day that we have to pay the staff? The answer is no, we would just end a day earlier than the Friday, we would end on the 21st instead of the
are we
22nd.
sure we're gonna have enough faculty though, on hand? That's the only other question is, do they already have
Well,
plans or?
We did
in
it
the past, when
before.
we did it, we didn't have a problem, right?
And I think the other thing to consider as well is that if we have a half day Non-contract employees, we're only paying a half day, and we'd be saving some
Right.
money there at the end of the year if it's a
Right.
full day.
'Cause they
I know
wouldn't.
it's not a lot, but
I mean, we don't necessarily need to do it. I'm just saying that if next week is stormy, we will go into the last week. And we still have 5 days in the last week of June. We have gone to June 30th. I don't remember when it was, but we
Yeah.
definitely went to June 30th.
About 3 years ago, yeah.
No appetite for that.
No, we-
Especially our poor primary school
primary school doesn't
parents.
have AC.
It was not warmly
teacher.
embraced by
Yeah.
anybody,
Oh, that's true, too.
so.
So,
So we have to make that decision tonight. It couldn't be made next Wednesday if we were to meet next Wednesday.
That's an interesting point that I hadn't thought about. If we're gonna have a meeting next week, you actually would have an opportunity to say,
I'm probably jumping ahead of a later topic, but just,
can we say that we could do it, like, if there is a snowstorm? Would you feel comfortable voting like that? That, making people aware that this could happen if we do have to take a day off?
and
I think we need to make a decision so that parents can make plans.
Correct.
Because it's a change in
Yeah.
school schedule.
Yeah, you really do.
And people need time for daycare or plans of what they're doing.
I mean, right now, we're on the 22nd, it's a Friday. It's not essential that we do this. I'm
Would
just
you say
throwing
we
that
said
out as
one
an
week?
idea.
Well, it's next week.
Yeah, I think that either we do it or we don't tonight because people need to make their plans.
And again, there's always the opportunity, if there's a concern, we could always do a Saturday in replace of it.
No,
I'm not a fan of that.
I don't think doing
Or
Saturdays.
we end in the
is,
last
uh,
week, and during the last week of June.
That's family time, self-care.
Yeah, Saturdays and April vacations is even harder.
has Memorial Day ever
Easiest
been
one is Good Friday.
attempted?
I
Somewhere out
don't
there.
recall ever doing
I'm not saying I want
Memorial
to do
Day.
that, but just asking.
I don't recall ever doing that. And I know that we've never given up any time in April
Yes,
vacation.
that's a real holiday, you know what I mean?
Again,
Regular.
There is no mandate to do it. Right now, we end on the 22nd, and if the weather is good for the rest of the year, we end on the 22nd. It's a Friday, it's a great time to end it, and we're good. So
But if we're not,
it goes over to the Monday, and we end on the Monday.
So,
There's no obligation to do so. I'm just throwing it out there. I only brought it out there because we've missed so many meetings.
Right.
But that we all of a sudden, if we were going to make a decision to do so, we needed to do so tonight.
opinions, I'm not a gambler generally, so, it's one of those things, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
Do we want to ask anybody, anybody in the audience has any thoughts or feelings, or just go with what we're saying? I don't know if anybody,
Feedback?
Administrators, staff,
anybody feels strongly one way or
See
the other.
one thumbs up.
big no for,
need it at this point.
You don't need
Although
to.
it's not
No,
just
you don't
snow.
have to.
You
Right.
could have a hurricane, you
Right.
could have tornadoes,
Right.
you could have
You
anything.
never know what's gonna happen between here now and the end of the year.
Especially these
You don't have to do anything. I'm just saying that we don't have an option. That's why I brought it up, is
Okay.
that we were out of time to consider it, so.
so, my opinion is, let's hope that our forecasters are wrong about snow flurries on Sunday, and take the chance that we're gonna end on the 22nd. That's my opinion, but I will,
Perfectly fine.
I'm leaning there too.
That's fine too.
We're in a lot better, we're in a lot better
Okay.
stead than most, a lot
Right,
of districts.
right. Some schools have to because they're already up to the 29th.
Right.
We have some wiggle room.
Yeah.
yeah. So why don't we just keep it as is then,
Very good.
and Good Friday is.
Again, I only brought it up because this
Still
is the
good.
only opportunity we would have to discuss it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Speaking of calendar, we had, just as a reminder, we had originally had the 2018-19 calendar on here. We pulled it off of the docket. A couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. One is that we were looking at a better model so that it was a little bit clearer, a little bit easier to read, a little bit easier to distinguish days off and so forth. So Lauren has been working on some different icons for different days to indicate different days so that it's a little bit clearer. We also have the administrative team and has sort of looked at coming up with, is it possible to keep the same number of hours for parent-teacher conferences but only do 2 half-days instead of 3, which is the concern, Julie, that you had mentioned. But also, we also made a change. We would like to make a change because it would save us 2 additional bus runs, which have a dollar amount attached to them. Because right now, I think we have the middle school and the high school on opposite days, and because they take the same bus, that leads to 2 different bus runs. That maybe if we have them on the same day, start them at a little bit of a different time, we could avoid those 2 bus runs, given the budget constraints that we'll talk about in a little bit. That might be practical. And we also have been talking with the leadership team of the DTA to get some structure on the exact timings so that they're sort of uniformed and there's equity across the 4. So that's the reason why we took it off. We are meeting with the DTA next Thursday, and by that time, hopefully, we'll have it finished. So hopefully, 2 things will come out of it. One, it'll be easier to sort of read instead of being jam-packed in there, and hopefully, we'll have a final decision that maybe we can do 2 days rather than 3 for half-days, and that might be more beneficial. So that's why that was taken off the calendar. I mentioned to you that I did want to address that in case anybody had a question on it. All right. So I believe then we move on to we pulled the Title I discussion because the change in date didn't allow us to also recognize the staff that are participating in Title I. So we would like to have them be recognized publicly. So we've pulled the Title I program review from this meeting, and we'll bring it to the next meeting so that Mrs. Socher and also the staff members can be duly recognized. Now, hard to believe, but we are finally about to engage in Mrs. Urquhart's presentation of the Coordinated Program Review, which was originally on the docket in the first week of December. And it finally has come to a date, Mrs. Nasuti, that we are able to finally celebrate our Coordinated Program Review just a scant 3 months later. So we
Yes.
have been blaming Mrs. Urquhart all along that the reason why it's been snowing on Wednesdays is because she was supposed to present the Coordinated Program Review.
Yes,
But it's not your fault. I don't want you to take it
it
personally.
might be. It might be. Can you be in charge of that?
Show me how to do it.
I don't know how to do that.
Arrows, like at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, when we hit the 3 o'clock arrow.
Excellent, thank you. Ready?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, so first of all, this coordinated program review is a huge success for the Douglas Public Schools. And before I present the findings of the review, there are some people that really need to be acknowledged. And it's basically the whole district. And it's not just the people that are a part of the district and are employed by the district now. It's the people that have been a part of the district really over the last 7 years. Everybody has put so much into making sure that this district is one of compliance and one of pride, and that we're always moving in ethical and lawful direction in the best interest of kids. So before I do present this, huge thanks to all of the staff. That is general education, that is special education, that's paras, that's admin. You know, things when we come to the civil rights piece, things, you know, facilities management. I mean, everything is included in this. You know, more specifically, I would like to speak to the Office of Student Support staff for the dedication. We have been so small over the last 7 years, but a very, very large thanks to Lori Nasuti, Lori Sear, who happens to be here tonight, and Penny Hannon, because they have put in a lot of hours helping with the successful review and making sure that student services for general and special education students are being satisfied. So now I will jump into it.
Ready?
I am ready.
All right, here we go.
So I'm just going to give you guys a quick overview. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education routinely conducts a coordinated program review every 6 years to satisfy federal and state requirements for the periodic review of specific education programs and services in schools throughout the Commonwealth. So what they do is the state comes out and they look at 3 focus areas. And those 3 focus areas are civil rights, special education, and English language learners. The coordinated program review basically is conducted in 2 phases. The first phase is the self-assessment phase, and that's basically when special education records, and it's a specific number, ours was 25, are pulled. It's according to kids' disabilities. It's according to different criterion, and they look at our compliance all the way around, from our programming to individual service and like that. Once that's complete and we upload that to a portal, the state then comes out. There was a team of 3 that came out, and they do what they call an on-site verification phase. During this phase, there's interviews of administrative, instructional, and support staff. They spoke with our parent advisory council representatives, parents of the general public. They spoke to many general education teachers, many special education teachers, related service providers. Something that was amazing to hear is that a survey was sent out by the Department of Education, and basically it was looking at where the parents are in all of this. You know, what are their thoughts on the way we're handling student support, civil rights, special education within the district. Something the state has never seen was a 98% response rate to a survey. We did have a 98% response rate, and 92% of those responses were in favor of what we are doing. So that is truly impeccable, and something to really be celebrated. So the coordinated program review, after they come out and they do conduct these 2 phases, they create a final report. Each area, being special education, English language education, and civil rights, has specific compliance criterion that was evaluated. In the final report, a rating for each compliance criterion was indicated. Included in a narrative statement in the final report for each criterion is either a rating of implemented, partially implemented, and not implemented. So, this is how we ended up. The Douglas Public Schools results are as follows. Special education. They looked at the 66 compliance criterion. There were 0 findings, which is a perfect score. English language learners, or English language education, there were 18 compliance criterion. There were 0 findings. Civil rights, there were 36 compliance criterion. There were 3 findings. All 3 findings were categorized as partially implemented. So basically from there, once we received that, we created a corrective action plan for those 3 criterion for civil rights, and that was submitted and approved. Now what happens is over the next year, we resolve or come to a level of resolution for the 3 criterion. That's indicated through quarterly progress reports, which I actually will be doing this weekend and submitting. So the tough part about the report findings is that for 2 of them, it came down to 1 word, which was hard to absorb, and I tried everything I could to try to get them to not call us on this. But basically, for criterion, civil rights criterion 3 and 8, it's what they call access, the first one, 3, is access to a full range of education programs. So this is what the state came up with. A review of documents indicated that although the district ensures that all students have equal access to the full range of education programs, school committee policies and non-discrimination statements do not include homelessness as a protected category. So basically, if we would have had that 1 word in there, it would not have been a finding. So the way we're going to resolve that is when we come forward with our school-wide manuals, we will have that in there. I'll be able to submit that to the DESE, and we'll be good to go. Killed us. It was the same thing for Criterion 8. That word homelessness was not in there. And then for the last one, Civil Rights 17A, which is use of physical restraint on any student enrolled in a publicly funded education program. A review of documents indicated that although the district has restraint prevention and behavior support policies and procedures, these do not include methods for preventing student violence, self-injurious behavior, and suicide, methods for engaging parents and youth in discussions about restraint prevention and use, and a description and explanation of the program's alternatives to physical restraint. So what that means is 3 years ago, all of the restraint policies within the state were updated. Okay, so lawfully we were where we needed to be. What they did not have in hand was the document that stated how we handle these things. So do we handle these things? Of course we do. But did they have that document present in their hands when they were doing the review? No. So we upload the document and then we're fine. So, so that's basically what occurred with that. So just did a little comparison data. Our last audit prior to this one was 2011, 2012. Again, I want to give a very large shout out to Lori Sear on this. She did a fantastic job of assisting to get an audit done in a very quick amount of time with me, and we did the best we could on that. But basically 2011, 2012, special education, we had 19 findings. So you can see that now 2017, 2018, we have 0 findings. So we have improved in 19 areas. We have come to a level of full compliance. We have created programs. We have strengthened criteria. And all the way around, we are doing everything that we should be doing in the area of special education. English language learners. This is where I'd like to speak to Laura Nasuti. She's sort of been a one-man army, one-woman army, excuse me. We have not had a lot of experience with English language learners in the district. Basically, over the until this year, we really did not have any students that were categorized. We had a couple that would be within the district, and the students would come and go. But this is the first year that we've had real exposure. So a lot of work has been put into that. And as you can see, even though we didn't have a student population in 2011, 2012, the state still mandates that you have all of your programs ready to go. We were called on 2 things. In 2011-12, now we have been called on nothing. All of our programs are tight. We're where we need to be. And then civil rights, 2011, 2012, we were called on 10 things. And again, I've provided you with the reasons why. Very easy remedies. And moving forward in 6 years, I would expect that we're 0, 0, and 0. So that is the presentation. Again, thank you to everybody who has been a contributing factor. And,
Thank you. And congratulations on your excellent CPR.
Well done. Thanks.
If I could also, just before you jump away, acknowledge that this is really such a strong review, and so much progress has been made in the area of special education and our services. Kudos to our classroom teachers, our special education staff, all of our support staff, to the administrators who are another piece of it, and obviously Ms. Sear for her part, Laurie for her part, but also to the 2 ladies sitting at the front table for what has been an unbelievable amount of dedication and effort to get this report out and arrange all the meetings and do all the work that needed to be done. So not only kudos for the outstanding report, but also your dedication to the the process, which also, I think, went very, very well. So,
Thank you.
thank you all.
And now that it's been reported on, it won't snow the rest of the year.
That is correct. Nothing but sun.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have another PowerPoint of some sort. I want to sort of introduce this a little bit. One of the things that had been sort of generated both from this committee and others was to take a look at the Douglas Public Schools, where we are and where we would like to go over the next few years. So the administrative team has spent a good deal of time collaborating on that and really putting together what we think is a plan that will help to keep Douglas Public Schools moving forward, being very competitive. It's a short-range plan. Obviously, we know that a lot of the things that I'm going to present tonight are not things that we could implement right away or all at the same time. But it is important that we be looking and be coming up with a plan to start implementing these programs, because all of them are going to be beneficial to our student learners, and they will allow them to be competitive in covering content that colleges are looking for, careers are looking for. It also, I believe, and I think it has happened on a number of occasions, has triggered a honest conversation amongst the administrative team, but also along with some other town departments about where we really would like to go and the implications of that, and why we're looking to go in that direction and how we're going to get there. All of it is focused on promoting and fostering a growth mindset in our students. It supports perseverance. I believe that Mr. Delaney's building has grit. The high school has perseverance. We all have different words for it. In our students, to give our students a sense of purpose, give them opportunities. Of course, there's a lot of this is the social emotional piece that we talk about and that we've been dedicated to over a period of time. But give our kids the opportunity to reflect, formulate a direction, but also to support them so that they can move forward in that direction. One of the things in my short time serving in this capacity is that I've had the opportunity to get into all of our schools. And our mission statement talks about safe and supportive learning environments. And one thing that has I've noticed, I noticed when I was here at the high school, and I've noticed in all of our buildings and all of our classrooms, is I genuinely believe that our school buildings, our classrooms are safe and they are supportive of student learning. And that's a testament to all of the people that are in our buildings, support staff, administrators, teachers, and so forth. I have noticed that our teachers are very dedicated with a great deal of fidelity to student learning and advancing our students. School climates in all of our buildings. Now that I'm going into all the buildings, the buildings are positive learning environments. There is a very strong and positive school climate in each of our buildings. They are places where I think our students feel comfortable, feel supported, and I think that they enjoy coming to our schools. So I think that that's important to mention as well. I've said this on a number of occasions. We have an outstanding student body in all of our buildings. We have great kids in our buildings. We have great teachers. We have great support staff, and we have great administrators. And I believe that our students are having a positive learning experience. But the purpose of this activity was to talk a little bit about, okay, what are some of the steps in moving forward, building by building? So again, this is something that all of the administrators can respond to. I will also be presenting a lot of this information on Monday at the Finance Committee, and so that they have an idea as to where we're going, and I would be more than welcome to present it to the Board of Selectmen as well, because I think it's important that they take a look at where we're at. So, and I don't, you guys have the handout in front of you, so you can see what's on the back of the board there. So, what's required of the district in order for us to move forward? Well, without question, the number one issue that has been a concern and will, I believe, continues to be a concern is financial stability. Because in moving forward, in bringing in new programs and new course offerings, and in meeting these needs for college and career readiness, there is a cost factor involved. So we need to continue to support our schools at an appropriate funding level, at the necessary funding level. We have made an investment in technology. We need to continue that investment in technology. We do need to continue to fund our programs. Laurie being here, it's actually interesting because over the period of the last number of years, you know that we have, in fact, had issues with regards to funding our programs. Jillian as well, who was part of that whole process in which we tried to, we fundraised to save our athletic programs as well as our band and our band and choral programs continue to play a huge part in that. But they really, we need to look at how do they become part of our operating budget. They were part of the operating budget in years gone by, but they are important. These programs are a critical piece of the school experience for our students. We have sat, and this is really an important piece of it, is we've sat as an administrative team, and by that I mean the business manager, the facilities manager, our technology director as well. We've all been part of this process, and we've looked at, okay, we're a competitive school district. How do we remain competitive, and more importantly, how do we move forward and become more competitive with our schools, with the other schools in the Blackstone Valley, which is where we originally gauge ourselves against, but also throughout the state. And what are schools in this, other schools in the state doing that right now we cannot implement? And you're going to see some of them as we move forward. One of the things that we talked about in the summertime was we feel very proud and very pleased with the fact that we are a solid level 2 school. And I would say to you that a level 2 school is important, but I don't believe that it should be the be-all and end-all. But again, we do want to be a level 1 school.
Could you define level 2 and level 1?
So a level 1 is based on criteria such as MCAS scores, dropout rates, college acceptances, things such as that. And it works out, there are levels 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Level 4 usually is a school that will eventually end up in receivership. We are a level 2 school, and we have identified areas. We've done a lot of data work around that. But I want to say this, that is not the only thing that we should assess our schools on. And I mentioned the things in advance, like climate, like safe and supportive, like the progress that we make, the experience that our students have, to me, are equally as important as performance on an MCAS score, an MCAS test in the grades that we get tested, or on all the students that make it to the finish line in where our kids are going. That's equally as important. So, but we do feel that we are very close to being a level 1 school. We are a strong district, and some of the things that, and I think Josh is going to talk a little bit about some of the things that might be holding us back a little bit as well when he talks about his presentation. But we do want to be a level 1 school because we do feel that we are comparable to all the schools in the Blackstone Valley that are in fact level 1, which there are only 1 or 2 in the valley, but we feel we're right there with them. So that's kind of the motivating factor. And then the last piece is that we want the community to derive great pride in what's going on in our schools. We want them to feel that there is a lot of great things going on in our school, that they should be proud of our students as we are proud of our students, and that they should be invested in supportive of each and every one of our students' individual growth, which is what I mentioned, the growth mindset in supporting that. So those are things that we feel that are really important for the district to be focused on, and we are focused on. So if Sam would be good enough to go forward. So what we presented as we presented recently to the school committee was that level service budget. And that was inclusive of these positions, which were part of a commitment that you, and I again, applaud the school committee for having the courage to go ahead and do what they did last year, because there was a glaring need. And you made a courageous decision, which I will tell you right here and now has paid tremendous dividends. And the issue, of course, is keeping these in place. And so for those who are in the audience, these are positions that we needed. We added a .5 grade 6 teacher. If we had not, our numbers would have been in the 30s, I believe, Mr. Delaney. We added, we reinstated again, and please notice that I've mentioned on the slide what school and whether or not it was a reinstatement or a new position. So we reinstated the 1.0 Dean of Students, and we put that Dean of Students on roller skates, and he is moving between two buildings all day long, each and every day, providing support and working really hard with parents and students. And having that position back and having it work in both buildings has really paid significant dividends. He's done a great job. I think the teachers are happy to have him in the building, and I think that they feel that they have another person to go to, so that the building principals who were trying to handle all of that maybe now are not handling some of those issues, and I think that's really important. One of the areas that is a concern, and we've talked about, Mr. Socia, in the 9 years that I've been here and many years that you've been here, is a focus on math and in improving our math scores on MCAS testing. But really, we made a commitment, and again, you supported it, bringing math support where it really needs to begin, which is down in the early grade levels. And we appointed a 1.0 Title I math teacher, and again, being shared between two buildings across different grade levels, and I believe it is having a tremendous impact, and I think it's really an excellent addition to it. I mean, we talked about it for years and years and years. We just, and again, you guys had the courage to bring that position in. The FTE 5.5 music position, that was a difficult cut. If you've had an opportunity to go to the concert, I believe, Mr. Delaney, the enrollment numbers are up dramatically. Participation levels are up dramatically. The performance level early on in the year was excellent, and they're going to perform again at the end of the year. That has turned out to be, and it is important because, as you know, it's a feeder system. It's a feeder system to the high school, and if we keep kids involved in the younger grade levels, they'll continue it into the high school. And that has also paid off very well. It's a .2 increase in special education coordinator. It's really the better way of saying it is that we moved her from a 192-day schedule to a full year schedule. And that has paid dividends, especially in light of the fact that we picked up an additional number of students who are EL students, and Laura has really taken the lion's share of that and done a great job with it. And also it will help us with our summer program as well. We reinstated a .6 librarian at the high school. Again, not a full-time position, but a .6. That is going to be an issue with our NEASC evaluation, which is in October, and they're wrapping up now during the course of the year. You had the foresight to realize that 28 students in kindergarten is not a good number, and you appointed another position. As a side note to that, we are in the process. We've already sent out the mailings for surveys for students who have left the district. And I was reading through them today, and there were a couple that indicated that one of the reasons why they opted out was because their child went to kindergarten with 28 kids, and they did not believe that the reduction in numbers was going to be something that would happen as years went on. In other words, they felt that they were going to be in large numbered classes going forward, and they opted to go to a different district because they thought that they would have smaller class sizes. Again, hopefully we can maintain that, the paraprofessional position that goes along with it. And we reduced the athletic fees from $300 without caps to $225 without caps. Our numbers have increased a bit, not tremendously, but they have increased a bit, and I think part of that is because our enrollment numbers continue to be having an issue as well. But we do see an increase in participations there. So that was stuff that is in that level service budget that we talked about the last year. And again, I just wanted to also mention again that publicly that they are paying, now that we're here in March, they are paying significant dividends, and that was the goal in doing so, and I'm very proud to say that we are seeing that benefit. So, we then looked at each school, and I'll try to get through this as quickly as I can. We start with the primary school. Critical to the primary school success, we believe, is maintaining our existing staffing levels. That, of course, means that we do not want to see any staff members be cut from that. We do want to maintain appropriate class sizes. Right now, class sizes are really good, and that is truly beneficial, especially at the younger grades. As Courtney says, and I've said, and many people have said, you are a kindergartner 1 year, and it needs to be as beneficial as possible that 1 year that you're there. We do want to maintain the full-day pre-K. We do want to continue our training and our implementation of social emotional learning. And we definitely want to maintain the Title I math position as it exists there. I will say that there might also be some needs as well, but those are the things that we think are really critical going forward. At the elementary school, again, maintaining the staff, the existing staff members. As you know, we were able to bring in additional staff members last year. That has allowed us to have good class size numbers throughout our grades. We do want to continue the after-school program, which is seeing really significant numbers. It's an enrichment program, which I think is terrific. The elementary school has made a full-scale commitment to social emotional learning. We want to support that again going forward. One of the things that I think is really important between both buildings right now, we are sharing an adjustment counselor. We made a full-scale commitment to social emotional learning, but we have an adjustment counselor who's going between two buildings, and there is clearly a need for an adjustment counselor in each of those buildings. So there is the need for probably a 1.0 FTE adjustment counselor, so that we would have one in the primary, one in the elementary school as well. Again, sharing that position is not the best model of supporting our students. And those adjustment counselors also are a support. They are a conduit to parents and also to programs that might help benefit the student as well. And we would like to, again, keep that Title I math position in play if we can as well. The middle school, there are some things that, again, these are not going to happen right away, but we really want to look at some new programs and some opportunities that we could bring to the middle school. So, again, maintaining the staffing levels, keeping the extracurricular programs. How many students performing in outdoor track? 55 athletic members of the middle school track program. I mean, that is a wonderful use of a program that we really need to keep in place. And we definitely want to keep the band choral programs I mentioned earlier. We have seen a tremendous growth, and we want to continue that growth. Some of the things that we would like to explore. We presently have computer applications and, if you will, Google applications at the high school. And I think that a move of that program down to the middle school, I think, makes good sense, because students learning how to use Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Google Docs, Google Slides, learning it early on is going to pay dividends for them. And right now, we have it at the high school, but I think, and we've talked a bit about it might be better served going down to the middle school if we can find a way to do that, and serve it and use it as an elective for the students in the middle school program. We have STEM in the building, but we would like to reestablish the commitment that was made to STEM a few years ago. Again, part of the reason for the STEM maybe fallen by the wayside is related to financing, but we really want to bring that and make that a component of all academic areas. We have a 0.5 PE teacher in place, and we would love to see that become a 1.0 and have half of that assignment be bringing health and wellness to our students in the middle school. Dealing with things such as proper nutrition, exercise, all the facets of becoming a healthy individual, but starting again sooner with the students. We presently have those iPad Airs. I don't know if there's a number that goes along with the Airs. 25. But we have 25, but there's but it's just the iPad Air. And one of the components there is that it really could be an excellent tool for video production, which we have at the high school. As you know, we have a TV production. Can we use that, and can that be an elective that students have an opportunity to get in and utilize those iPads and begin making projects and programs and doing television type of activities and public service announcements and things like that, and graphic type of designs and things with it that will really benefit the students, their knowledge base, but also help to support the climate and the culture of the school. We do want to see, and I don't know if I don't think I mentioned this in the other two grades, tech integration is an important piece. We made the commitment to go to a lot of the one-to-ones, but we really need support staff to help us with that. I mean, Scott and Donna run around like crazy, and Stephanie run around like crazy, but we'd like to see a teaching element that maybe was shared between two buildings, so two positions, but shared between the 4 buildings, to really help the teachers to use them in the classroom, the one-to-ones in the classroom, but also to work with the kids in the classroom on how best to use the one-to-ones. I think it's an important piece. And then the last thing is that I know that Brian and the staff and myself have been exploring and thinking about, is there another model, another scheduling model that we could use? And actually, I should mention that we're looking at that possibly as an elementary adjustment in the elementary school that would have a trickle-down effect maybe to them, and where as a group we're going to be looking at some scheduling models going forward to better use our staff and better utilize some of these programs, get these programs to the students. So Brian, I know, is looking at some models for different schedules for the students. And then the last building, of course, is the high school building. And I think, is it there? It is there, okay. Again, staffing levels, maintaining our advanced placement programs, keeping all of our extracurricular programs, our athletic band and choral programs, and auxiliary programs. Here is the steps that we think that down the road we really want to take. Engage in a review of our business course offerings. When we originally talked about business course offerings, I want to say it was probably 7 or 8 years ago. We had talked about sort of using it as a conduit to those students who want to go to business schools, or those students who want to go from the school right into business, into maybe retail or into a business endeavor, focusing on personal finance, focusing on entrepreneurship, focusing on accounting, focusing on marketing. When we originally did this, we offered a marketing, and we were going to offer accounting. When we had to make teacher reductions, the teacher who was the business teacher had to absorb the office applications classes, so therefore we had to lose those 2 classes. We would like to try to find a way to bring those classes back, because we do have students who want to go to Bentley, Brandeis, and all the B schools, Bryant, and so forth. They want to go to those schools, and they could, in their 4 years, take a pathway of electives that would give them a solid background in that. And I think that's important. I lost where my track here is. One of the things that I think is an important use would be bringing an engineering path to Douglas. So what that would look like is that students would, in their freshman year, come in and they would make a commitment to that engineering path, and they would be in an engineering 1, an engineering 2, an engineering 3 course. And then the 4th piece of it would be an internship program where they would go out to a local engineering program or a manufacturing program, and they would put their learning into practice. A school in the Valley that is on board on this, that is a little bit ahead of us on this, is Hopedale. They're looking to put this program in place. I have reached out to a grant funding possibility. Unfortunately, there is a lot of competition for it. We won't know. I'm waiting for the application to come in. They told me that there are quite a number of school districts that are looking to get into this. It's called Innovations Program, and we would like to bring that to the high school. We presently do manufacturing at the high school. So we have 2 years of manufacturing. And we do drafting. We would simply transition all of that into basically an engineering program. and then add an internship program, which we, as you know, we already have an internship program as senior year. It would be that, but we would want to get the kids into that, and they would make a commitment freshman year through senior year. One of the things that we recently added in, if you recall, at the high school level was anatomy and physiology. We already offer AP Bio, we already offer AP Chemistry, and another component, a fourth piece to that, would be to try to bring in a biomedical class into the school, so that those students who might be interested in the medical field, or those students who might be interested in, when they graduate, going into being an assistant in a medical office and so forth, could, based on their course studies, and if we can get a senior year internship program in conjunction with that, they could then possibly take that certification test and immediately move into a doctor's office and be gainfully employed that way as a career. So that's a big reach as well. One of the things that we will look to do, and I know that we have already had conversations about this, the DESE has removed science and technology as a MCAS competency exam, and presently we offer science and technology in grade 9. And a number of students, probably in the area of around 30 or 32 students, are taking that as their competency. Now, going forward, they will not be able to take that as a competency. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to continue to offer that science technology class, but what a lot of, what the DESE is pushing now is a grade 9, grade 10 college prep level physics course, which we have already begun discussions of, and are looking to begin implementing probably, not necessarily, I don't think it's in for next year, but the following year, where our students would be taking the physics class instead of the science technology. It would be an MCAS competency exam. So that would be a switch that we would do there. This one is really on the front burner. We are ahead of the curve, and I actually spoke with the doctor that's leading the charge on this. There is a push within the Valley to bring a collaborative learning opportunity that allows students to earn college credits, much like we presently have right now. Students at Douglas, if they want to go to 12th year program, can earn college credits at Quinsigamond, or actually Quinsig is the only place that they've been attending. There are other opportunities, but Quinsig is the closest. That's one they go to. This is a program that is really on the cutting edge right now, because it looks to bring to the Valley another opportunity, another place where students can engage in manufacturing, engineering, plant science, animal science. It gives the student an opportunity to stay in districts. They'll be part of our school district, but be taking courses in those. And there's an agreement already in place with Wachusett Community College, and an agreement in place right now that just took place on Monday with UMass. And actually, I've been pushing them to take the primary school building over and renovate it and make that the site, which they are exploring.
The old grammar school.
Grammar school, not the primary. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You still have a school. I'm sorry. The grammar school, right. And they are exploring, and they are considering that as a possibility between that school as well as the other option is the, what's the name of it in Uxbridge?
McCloskey.
It's not the old high school, what is it?
McCloskey.
McCloskey is now the middle school. This is an interesting, I have met with a local, the Douglas Orchard, and as has the doctor that's running this, Dr. Samuels, who's running this. He has also met with them, because they do have, they have apple orchard, they have blueberry orchard, they do grow crops through the course of the year. They do have a greenhouse, and they also have small animals, and they also have chickens, they have ducks.
Green alligators?
They do not. They provided me with some duck eggs, which I had never in my entire life had duck eggs. They did give me duck eggs. And they also keep some animals. They keep pigs, and they keep some lamb on site. So that would be a piece where the students would actually have an internship and work with the orchard to work on plant and animal sciences, as well as he's already reached out to Southwick Zoo as well, whatever it's called, Southwick Wild Animal Farm, I think it's called now, to get a collaboration with them. This is all very new, and I think it's exciting, and I will be coming back to you soon to talk more about this, to see if there is interest in us becoming part of that collaborative. And Uxbridge is on board, as is Northbridge. We have met with them, and they are very anxious for us to get on board. They have reached out to Sutton, they have reached out to Millbury, they have reached out to Hopedale, although we have not heard much back from those groups. That's a tremendous opportunity that I think would keep a lot of our students here as well, which we would like to see happen as well. There's more, I think, Mr. Cedarbaum, if you would. I think that was everything for the high school. Then for the district, the biggest area that we've talked about, and I know that Courtney and Jeff Collette and Donna Souza were putting together some cost factors on this. Security is an issue in all of our buildings. And there are, in order to make that work, there are some things that we have already identified. We did have a meeting recently, Sherry was able to attend for the school committee, townwide on safety and getting together a safety board and coming up with a safety plan, but also looking at how do we get these things in place, such as funding for key cards at the middle school, as well as I think one of the doors at the primary school. At the high school and at the middle school, as you walk in the main door, there's a second set of doors. We would like to convert those to locked doors that also electronically need to be opened. We also talked about a Lazy Susan window, so that more often than not, the people that come into the building are people bringing Chromebooks, lunches, and things like that, where they don't really need to come into the building, put it in, spling the thing, it's in the building, and they've never had to come into the building at all. We know that we have some issues with securing our doors, and also some devices for maintaining all of our classrooms as secure places. So, the goal behind all of that was to share with the committee sort of a follow-up to what you did last year, but also to talk about what's on the horizon and what are some of the things that we would really like to see brought to the school district to make us as competitive as possible. I believe that if we're competitive, students will want to stay. As I said before, the reason why I mentioned the climate and the culture within our buildings as being positive, if we have other things to offer, perhaps the students will stay with their peers and go right through the Douglas schools, right through grade 12. And, but I also think that that even if they don't, the students who are in Douglas High School should have these opportunities as well. That's why we presented it.
Thank you.
Now, I will say that if you were impressed by all of that, Mr. Villamere did manufacture a disc. It is available. I am looking to offset any shortfalls. I will autograph a copy of it if you would like it. Because this was originally scheduled for when I went on vacation, because you told me to go on vacation, so I went on vacation. And so Scott filmed the whole thing. I did it standing up.
Care.
It's excellent, and they are going quickly. They're at $25 a piece, so please, if you have an interest,
I was gonna say 1,000.
please send me an email, and I will try to get one out to you as soon as possible, an autographed copy, as soon as Scott can make some. And I need a drink of water.
I think you do.
Very good.
I think that was very well put together, because that is a huge issue right now. You mentioned something about the whole agricultural piece. I mean, it is expensive to go to that school down south of us, very
Right.
expensive. So if we can get kids to stay here, that is a big problem right now, is everyone wants to leave because we're not competitive like all the other schools around us, supposedly.
Right now, we cannot offer those things, as you know, and, but clearly there's an interest. Students are going to the other schools to study those things. probably get in trouble for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyways. If you look at the vocational schools, and I am not here to bash the vocational schools, I really am not. They are our schools, I support them 100%. But there's been a change over the last 7 or 8 years in vocational education, so that in a lot of respects, the vocational schools now look very much like our school. And the issue is that we don't have the ability to also offer those courses, those programs. Partly because we have a conduit to allow us to do that. However, if you look at statistically, and BVT looks very much like us. We are similar in nature. 80% of our kids are going on to 2 or 4 year schools, as are BVT students. Now, if you were to go back to 1999 and 2000, it looked very different. It looked very different. Our number was the same, 78, 80%. Their number was more in the area of 40%. 50% were going into the workforce. They were going from a trade into the workforce. So that has changed dramatically. So the number of students, going into a workforce now is 9%. So there's a dramatic change in that. So that's kind of why I think we have to move in this direction, or we need to be able to offer those students who cannot get into those schools the opportunity to get the same educational background. And this this collaborative could be a very important piece to the Valley as well, because there's clearly an interest in the Valley for these programs, and we'll see how it goes.
I just want to say one more thing in regards to what you're just talking about.
Water, yeah. Sorry.
My son was accepted into BVT, and we were really hoping that he would end up going there, not because I wanted him to leave, but because of the opportunities that were ahead. They also have a very competitive engineering program, which
Right.
I'm glad that you mentioned, because
Right.
that is very hot there. But when he was going to go to BVT, one of the things that he wanted to do was the media, graphics, doing stuff like that. We have a program here at Douglas that he got involved with, which was that the video production
Yeah,
kind of
TV
thing.
production, right.
Right, and he did that as a freshman, which I don't know if they typically do. He said most of them.
It's a 2-year program, so
Right.
they can stay in for 2 years.
So most of the kids in the class are seniors, juniors, whatever.
That's true, yep.
But he's like, I could have gone to BVT and done this, but here I am doing it right here in my town.
Right.
And he loves it. And it's given him real world experience because they're doing all the stuff that, he would have done over there too.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and again, I'm going to say this, BVT is an excellent school, Norfolk's an excellent school. I'm not bashing them, I'm just saying that in the transition, and the state is supporting it, in the transition, they now sort of look a lot like us academically, but we don't have the
We don't have the
vocational
financial,
component.
we don't have the financial backing from the state either. So
Right.
Huge difference.
the focus really is feeding a lot of money to vocational schools, but the state put the requirement of MCAS on them as well, which is kind of what changed the tide when the state did that. So, but they get to check off lots of different extra funding boxes that we're not able to do. So that kind of adds to our already difficult financial woes that we've been experiencing the last several years. I think adding programs like this is definitely beneficial. Hopefully, it shows the community our commitment to making sure that we're looking at everybody's needs and making our schools, keeping our schools as the best schools that they can be with the limited financial resources that we have. So I think this is great, and
There is,
Very
and as I
pleased.
said in the very beginning, there is a financial component to this that I didn't share with you, but at some point, if you're going to offer some of these classes, someone has to be in front of the class.
Kind of tying what both of you just said together, I think, a little bit is, I think the vocational schools have been at an advantage because they have been a bit of the favorite sons of the state, and I think rightfully so. I think there's lots of values in those programs. I imagine most of those schools are kind of capping out on how much they can expand. So I wonder if there's an opportunity for us to kind of tackle some of our financial woes by approaching the state from a different angle to say, listen, we want to offer more of these vocational type of programs, not necessarily become a full vocational school, but and can we secure more funding from the states that way so the state can still satisfy their needs or their wants to have more vocational training in our schools without necessarily having to open up entirely new vocational schools to do that. So
I should mention also that at the presentation and the opportunity for this collaborative was presented as well to Blackstone Valley Technical Vocational. They've also been reached out to as well. So it wasn't like we were trying to not engage them. One thing that I would mention that I think is really important is that we need to take, and I said in one of the first statements I said is that we need to take an honest and critical look at our school district. We had a meeting today at Town Hall, and one of the things that I said was that BVT is our school, and our students should be able to go to BVT if they want to go to our school, go to BVT. But one of the things that we need to take a critical look at is why is that to them a better choice than staying here? Because if we don't answer that question and we don't address the reasons why, which is why we're doing that survey, as you know. I don't remember how many she sent out, but it was... Over 300 surveys have gone out, and it is online. If you want to see the survey, you might want to go online to look at the questions that are being asked, and we are getting feedback. If we don't find out why that is, what were some of the driving forces? And the same thing, not just BVT, private schools, Norfolk Aggie, Oxford, Northbridge, wherever they might be going. If we don't take a look and really look at that information and address the areas of concern, then we're just doomed to continue to repeat this. Because the kids have the opportunity, they are being offered the opportunity, and there's no reason why they should not be allowed to take advantage of the opportunity, unless there's a better mousetrap.
When are you anticipating the data coming back from those surveys?
So I've been getting some of it in, slow but sure. There, I think, were 38 parent surveys that have come in, only a few student surveys that have come in. We mailed it out, I forget when we mailed it out, I think it was last Friday. Was it? Yeah.
Last Friday, and then it's all online responses.
So it's only been 3 or 4 days, and we're already getting feedback. And it's not a long survey, but it does ask some questions as to, what were the motivating factors as to have you decide to go elsewhere. And I believe that we have one more issue that I will turn over to Ms. Keegan to talk about.
Okay, so along those lines about budgetary issues.
And here we go.
Yes. This is in regard to the FY 2019 appropriation for general fund operating budget. On March 9th, the town administrator provided the school district with an appropriation amount for FY 2019 of $12,679,853. This amount represents a required reduction to the FY19 superintendent's proposed budget of $643,670. This FY 2019 appropriation amount is $209,484 less than the final FY 2018 appropriation and $119,025 less than the FY 17 budget appropriation. So it's $119,000 less than what the school district received in even tight financial times 2 years ago. The DESE preliminary required net school spending amount is $15,536,709. And what that is, that's a total amount that basically, to kind of generalize, kind of bring it down to simple terms, it would be that appropriation amount, and then you would add to that, to come to that $15,536,709, would be expenditures that are budgeted on the town side, in the town budget, that are counted per DESE to be for school expenditures. And some examples of those are administration, say for instance, the finance director, town accountant, and town treasurer's office. They do a lot of work with regard to our payables warrants, payroll, health insurance, a lot, actually probably most of their work is for the school department. And also the town treasurer, her office as well.
And that's actually calculated per a formula provided by DESC. They give you an administrative amount each year, and you multiply that simply by your student enrollment. So it's a very simple calculation. It's known right to the dollar. We also have school security. As you're well aware, we have a school resource officer in this district. We're very happy to have him. We wish we could afford 3 others, but we're very happy to have Mr. Filoni, and his salary is counted as well, and his benefits, but that's later on down the list here. Maintenance, for instance, the highway department, they do come up here and they plow the roadways and salt and sand when there are snowstorms. Employer retirement contributions, that would be only Worcester Regional Retirement. MTRS does not count, so anybody in the teacher's contract, the state pays for that. So for all municipalities across the state of Massachusetts, that's paid for by the state. There is no contribution on the town side. But there is for positions such as secretaries, custodians, cafeteria, paras, ABAs, and positions that are in Worcester Regional Retirement. So the exact cost of those retirement contributions on the town side of the budget are counted towards that. Also, there's insurance such as general liability, workers' compensation, unemployment, school board, boiler and machinery, and automobile, all, of course, applicable to only the school department. In health insurance, cost of all current and retired employees, in the actual cost of their insurance applicable. And tuition, just school choice and charter school tuition assessments are counted as well. When the town receives what's called their cherry sheet, that's submitted from the DOR, the Department of Revenue, that basically gives the state revenues. The largest one is Chapter 70, which is school funding, appropriated by the legislature. And in addition to that, they have some other very small revenues, and they also have some assessments, and one of those, the largest being, is school choice out assessment. So any Douglas resident who decides to go to another municipal school district, not say BVT or anything like that, or a charter school, the town receives basically an assessment. They take it off the revenues that they'll receive for that fiscal year. Transportation, regular ed and special ed transportation does not count towards net school spending. Neither does the tuition for Blackstone Valley Tech or Norfolk Aggie. They do not count towards net school spending. Right now, we don't have any figures with regard to the budgetary amounts on the town side. So I, as a business manager, I know some others are a little concerned about whether or not this appropriation being so low, actually less than what we received 2 years ago, if you take that figure and add to it the budgeted amounts for FY18 of these categories I just delineated, whether or not it'll actually come to the $15,536,709. But we are speaking with the town and working through that. They definitely have their own, financial. They're no different than us. We're all the same. All departments are in the same boat. We're all one town, the town of Douglas. We work very well together. So we'll be looking at that figure there. But just for information, because years past, and actually throughout the entire state of Massachusetts, most school districts are receive an appropriation that's pretty well above the required net school spending. Because the required net school spending number barely meets what is required for an adequate or even competitive or 21st century education. So, but there are some ramifications if a town does not meet it, and certainly the town would not want to be not meeting it. So I'm sure they're looking at that. As everyone is aware, the school district has been making substantial reductions to its budget for years. FY 2018 was the first year in many years that a reduction in personnel was not required. And we worked very hard as a leadership team and the school committee to make that happen, because stability of the school district was extremely important to all of us for FY 2018. So we were able to do that by utilizing much more of our revolving funds that was done in previous years, partially due to a substantial increase in circuit breaker revenues, due, of course, to the substantial increase in special education expenditures. This increase will be dropping off substantially, though, over the next couple of years due to some of those large ones dropping off. thereby in subsequent years after that drop-off, we'll be receiving less circuit breaker revenue. But we do keep an eye on this. We all work very well together, keep an eye on things very carefully with regard to the use of these revolving fund revenues. Particularly the largest ones are school choice, that's tuition in, for students that come from other towns and come to our school district, and also the circuit breaker account, which I just spoke of. These decisions were made to mitigate the dismantling of the school district that has been occurring year after year for many years. It is difficult and near impossible to remain competitive when we are constantly changing, eliminating, or reducing our programs district-wide. Further, it is difficult to even maintain any semblance of a level service budget. It is impossible to be prospective, and I just said this a minute ago, with regard to providing 21st century education and the level of sophistication, a lot of what Mr. Maines had just delineated, with regard to our offerings for all of our students, let alone be competitive with other school districts, BVT, Norfolk Aggie, and even private schools or other learning opportunities. Making the determinations on the recommended reductions will require a meeting with the school committee budget subcommittee. We have had one meeting. We'll be having another one on Monday. And the school committee leadership team. This will be an arduous process, negatively affecting all of those involved in the educational offerings for Douglas Public School students. This is what we would like to avoid, and I think we have come a long way tentatively with regard to our first meeting we had with the school committee budget subcommittee. And we'll have more information coming out for everyone very soon. And we'll be working very diligently and collaboratively to bring the budget to the required appropriation amount, as we do, always. We're striving to meet the timeline to hold the FY 2019 budget public hearing on Wednesday, April 4th. That was the originally scheduled meeting. We thought we may have to put it off, but I feel we'll be in good stead after Monday and possibly have another school committee meeting next Wednesday so that we can still hold the public hearing on April 4th. And I think it's better that everyone know kind of where we stand sooner rather than later as a school district with regard to the budget appropriation. I think also, I just might want to mention, in conjunction with what Mr. Maines just went over, we did also prepare as a district the FY 2019 additional needs. As you're aware, because we've had to do so much cutting, years back I used to incorporate everything that we really felt we needed as a leadership team, as a school committee, to properly run the district for all students. But it became such an arduous task, and we had to reduce so much and such a huge dollar amount, we ended up yanking so much out of the budget that what we've done the last 2 or 3 years, I forget if it's 2 or 3, we prepare basically a level service budget, and then we have an additional needs budget. We think it's very important for everyone to be fully aware of the magnitude of the difference between where we are is level service and where Mr. Maines, the leadership team, and the school committee have articulated where we feel we should be to be competitive and go forward in the 21st century. So we have prepared it for district-wide in all 4 of the schools, and the dollar amount is $857,405. And believe you me, that when we're meeting as a leadership team, knowing the financial situation here, we're still very, this is not where we're, say you were going out and looking for a house, we're still looking at the conservative house, but will serve the family's needs. We're not looking at the Taj Mahal with the swimming pool and the 5-car garage. So even that dollar figure here, I think is pretty, I would say pretty conservative. But it kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of the delta between where we are now, although we are doing very well, I think, with the staff that we have and the leadership and the school committee. I think we're doing very well with what we have. We certainly could use everything here that Mr. Maines has spoken of.
So all the things here will address the needs, items that were in your last presentation that
For the
we don't
most part,
currently
yes.
have.
And again,
They're all identified
not
here.
all of that necessarily needed to be implemented right away.
Right.
But just so we have an idea. So I guess a couple of things with that I would like to throw out there is, one of the things that was broached at the Selectmen's meeting on Monday night was the impact of school choice. And there are a number of us who were around, maybe not sitting at this table, maybe you were sitting in the audience, some of you who were sitting in the audience. 5 years ago, we said, as this dismantling began, we said that one of the concerns we had is that students were going to opt to go elsewhere. When they feel that that programs are always in danger, that courses and academic programs are in danger, they're not going to necessarily stay. And we said that that would have an adverse impact on the overall town budget as well. Because the number of students going out now, for the last couple of years, we've seen a little bit of a change in enrollments in and enrollments out. So maybe a few less coming in and a few more going out. So we kind of anticipated that was going to happen, and unfortunately, we're seeing that. And it's becoming, now others are seeing it as well, because they're seeing it in terms of dollar amounts. And it is much, in fact, what we talked about, and those who were here remember talking about that. The other piece of it is that, as Courtney just mentioned, is, and I said before she started, was that there is a dollar amount to being competitive and advancing. And right now, we are not at all in a position where these things that we've talked about could come online, based on where we're at right now. And that's the concern that we had.
And I just want to, again, I think Courtney just got this a little bit, but on the idea of competitiveness, I have no doubt that the quality of the programs and services we have are very competitive in the ones that we're able to offer. I think when we talk about competitiveness, it's in the breadth of programs that we're able to offer. What we do offer,
Very
I
good.
think we're very competitive in. It's what we're not able to offer, where we lack in competitiveness.
And quite frankly, keeping up with what the state is telling us we have to do. Because the technology piece of this, the state is going to want us online 100%.
Right.
At some point in the next couple of years. So there's going to be things that are on this list that are not optional.
Right,
Right.
right,
So
right, another good point.
just something to think about.
Right, actually, when I asked Mr. Cedarbaum if there was another slide, I thought there was some more for the high school, and now I'm remembering that there was. One of the state's new programs is coding, computer science, and having a program in place that would allow students to take coding, computer science, AP computer science, and I forgot that wasn't on there.
It is.
Actually, I think it was, you
It is.
skipped over it, yeah.
Wasn't, I just went over it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was another one of the programs that as, to go to your point, Mrs. Zetman, is the fact that that's something that we should be implementing. And at this point in time, that we don't have the ability to implement, based on staffing and materials and so forth. Thank you.
Very good. So we're going to move to the school committee and subcommittee report. I'm going to send that right over to Brett.
Thank you. So it turns out it was probably a blessing that we moved to our new accounts payable process. Otherwise, we'd be sitting on almost $800,000 worth of account payable right now in the last 2 months. Can you imagine, right?
Oh, my goodness.
So,
Oh, no,
yeah.
we'd have to call you guys in. We'd call you guys in. Otherwise, the vendors
Be
would be
here in
coming after
snowstorms
me.
just to sign accounts payable. So since we last met, there's been 3 separate batches of accounts payables that I've signed off on. February 15th batch of 19 batches for $285,731 and 19 cents. A March 1st batch, or 17 batches on March 1st for $341,510.68, and then on March 15th, 14 batches for $169,953.87. I have public details here. Go through it. As usual, most of the dollars are general fund and circuit breaker dollars. No surprise there. And I don't think I had really any significant questions on any of them, so it was all kind of business as usual.
Thank you.
So Courtney also touched on, we did meet as a budget subcommittee earlier this week to discuss kind of where we're at in the budget process, having gotten some direction from the town on where appropriations may land. Now, again, the number that Courtney just read off, the $12.7 million appropriation from the town was provided to us as a worst-case scenario, and the Board of Selectmen is still working through their final budget. I'm hoping that number comes in a little bit higher. Folks out in the audience, whether it's here or at home, can help with that by contacting your Board of Selectmen to let them know that number is completely inadequate to keep the school district moving in the direction it needs to. But to that point, what we really talked about was the net school spending number, whether the town can get there based on the appropriation they've given us. I'd been holding out hope that what they were giving us wasn't going to get there. I'm not so sure that's true after kind of reviewing past years' net school spending, but we still have to wait for them to actually calculate it for us. We also talked about the gap of the $650,000 roughly between our level service budget and what's being offered in that worst case scenario, and what we can do to close that gap. And I think there's there's some extraordinary measures that we need to discuss and decide whether it's something that we want to approach, and that's really using a great deal more of our revolving funds than we typically would, bringing the balance in those revolving funds down to levels that they haven't been down to since our budgets were much, much smaller. What that does is puts us in a position where unforeseen circumstances that happen throughout the course of the year we are less capable of dealing with. So we have to weigh those things and decide how comfortable we are with using how much more additional revolving funds. So those were really the gist of our conversation. We do have another meeting this coming Monday just to kind of final preparations for our trip in front of the Finance Committee next Monday night.
Very good. Thank you. So we'll move on to the meeting minutes of February 14th, 2018. Did anybody have any questions or changes that need to be made? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of February 14th, 2018?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 14, 2018 school committee meeting minutes.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. We have the grade 8 end-of-year field trip to Canopy Lake Park.
Mr. Delaney will be taking the mantle on this one because, again, we changed the date, so he is stepping in pinch hit.
Good evening. Normally, you would have a very articulate, well-poised, very cute middle school student. Instead, you get me this evening. I will be sharing the proposal for the 2018 8th grade field trip to Canopy Lake Park. The 8th grade would like to take a field trip to Canopy Lake Park as a culminating middle school event. We are planning on going sometime during the last 5 days of June, or maybe July 18. The park is located at 85 North Policy Street in Salem, New Hampshire. It will take approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes to get there by bus. We will be leaving from Douglas Middle School at 7:30 a.m. and returning at 4 p.m. All students will be required to ride to Canopy Lake on the bus. Ride there and back of the bus is provided. Parents will pick up their children at 4 p.m. from Douglas Middle School. We'll be reserving buses as soon as we have a total number of students and adults. Tickets will be ordered as soon as the trip is approved, and final ticket number will be finalized upon arrival. The cost for admittance to the park will be $25 per person, as long as it's booked by March 31st, after which time the rate will increase. The total cost of the buses has not yet been determined. We are waiting to hear back from 2 bus companies for quotes. PTO and class dues will be used to offset the cost of the trip. There are additional funds available for any students with financial hardship. The cost per child will not exceed $40. The student-chaperone ratio will be approximately 10 to 1. We will be meeting all the chaperones prior to the trip to explain the responsibilities the day of the trip. Students will check in with their chaperones every 2 hours at a centrally located place, the beautiful, world-renowned Portofino restaurant by the water. Nurse will be located at the spot throughout the day. All eligible students will be encouraged to attend. To be eligible, a student must continue to exhibit good behavior in the school, which means no more than 2 disciplinary referrals, no suspensions or expulsions from now until the end of the year. And the necessary document to answer all questions is provided. You have that?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
This is a event that is annual and has been enjoyed for many, many years, but we hope that the proposal is adequate.
Does anyone have any questions? Nope. So,
I move that we approve the proposal for the 8th grade field trip to Canopy Lake Park in Salem, New Hampshire.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Middle school rules.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney.
Okay, so we move on to the memorandum of agreement between the Douglas School Committee and the Douglas Teachers Association.
Am I doing that, or you gonna do it?
Well, I noticed this afternoon that we actually have it here, and then we could also actually take care of it when we're doing both of the contracts, either way. Can
That's
vote
fine.
for it now, because you have a copy of it, and then we can just do the contract later on, either way.
Later on in the meeting or a different meeting?
Oh, no, it's on the agenda
Oh,
here.
okay.
That's the one that I gave you earlier, that I did incorporate language in there, but I didn't realize it was also
Okay.
on the agenda.
So you want to move down to the school choice vote then?
Good, yep.
What are we doing?
Oh, it's like a single piece of paper, so it's hard to find it.
I don't have a paper about the school choice
It's
vote,
just
do you?
one paper here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one, yeah.
Yeah. So we have in front of you the current choice numbers. And again, I think what we're looking to do, looking to get a vote on the number of choice students for the 2018-19 school year. School numbers will be monitored closely, and decisions based on enrollment changes in the district as we move forward to next year. After this continued designation, I propose we accept students in designated grades based on enrollment developments and, as always, based on receipt of application date. One of the things that we had some concerns with last year, and it was really difficult to pin down numbers because it was a moving target, to be honest with you, numbers of teachers and so forth. At this point in the year, I'm requesting a vote for the continued. Douglas is a school choice district, and there's all your information on it. We do obviously want to remain a school choice district, and we just need your vote on that.
Does anyone have any questions?
I think at some point we would come back and say, listen, these are the numbers. You'd have to decide whether or not, I think that was in August that we did that.
Yeah.
Has to close.
So we do that before,
Right now, what we're looking to do is to remain a school choice district,
and that's the only thing we're looking to do.
as I understand that correctly, right, Courtney? We're
That's-
just doing this for a vote for the.
Yes, that's correct.
To remain a choice district,
That's correct.
not numbers.
So I'd be looking for a motion to approve remaining a school choice district.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
Now I think we're going back to memorandum of agreement.
Okay. I am going to make just a slight change to the motion, Sherry.
Okay.
If you could please write the words after it says move to approve if you could please put memorandum of agreement and the 3-year contract. That way we'll have it twice in there. It's very, very clear. And just by way of information, as, I don't know if you recall, I know we've had so many storms, it's hard to remember.
This one,
The memorandum of agreement was brought to the school committee in January. You did go over it, you did sign it, it's been signed by both parties, the DTA and the school committee. It's just that we just didn't take the formal vote, that's all, and we will take care of that this evening.
Right, so it wasn't put on record. that we took a
Right.
formal vote, although you all signed it and
Yeah.
were supportive of it. So we need to put that on the record at this point.
Yeah. The current three-year contract between the school committee and the Douglas Teachers Association ended as of June 30th, 2017. The memorandum of agreement is attached to this agenda item summary that delineates the changes to the contract. Over the three-year life of the contract, steps and COLAs total approximately $640,000. Other contract provisions amount to approximately $100,000 or more per year. That's longevity, personal day, course reimbursement, salary bump, et cetera. But just be aware that course reimbursements, longevity, and salary bump, they can vary each year. Okay, that's just an estimate with regard to that. If the school committee is in agreement, the following motion I have provided to you is recommended for approval. And the DTA has already signed 5 copies of the agreement that I brought here this evening, also for school committee signatures.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yes. Other contract provisions amount to approximately $100,000 more per year. That's $100,000 more per year over current levels?
No, just cost.
Okay, thank you.
Cost, yep.
Any other questions? So I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum and three-year contract between the Douglas School Committee and the Douglas Teachers Association, beginning July 1st, 2017, and ending June 30th, 2020, as outlined in the attached memorandum of agreement delineating the changes, wage percentage increases to be as follows. FY 2018, 1%, FY 2019, 1.75%, FY 2020, 1.75%.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
If I could also recognize those who participated in the process and all the work that went into it and getting us to this point, so acknowledge everybody for their efforts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you want to send the contracts down for us to sign in open
Oh, we
session?
can do them at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
We can do, because we've got a whole bunch of those and the reclasses
Okay.
too.
Did we, I'm still trying to remember, did we actually vote for the memorandum?
Yes,
we
it was
did.
in
For
the
both.
motion.
We did, we did.
Next
Custodian.
is the custodian cafeteria
Cafeteria
contracts.
The current three-year contract between the school committee and Teamsters Local Number 170 for both the cafeteria workers and custodial workers ended as of June 30th, 2017 as well. We met with both unit representatives and the Teamsters representative regarding a three-year contract, and the terms as attached have been voted on and approved by both member units. With regard to wages, we offered FY 2018 is 1%, FY 2019, 1.50, FY 2020, 1.50. Both units accepted this offer. On the evening, custodians will also receive a 50-cent more added to their hourly rate. Anyone who begins work after 2 p.m. on a regular schedule only. Over the three-year life of the custodial contract, it will cost approximately $46,695 for wage increases and $9,000 for clothing allowances. Over the three-year life of the cafeteria contract, it will cost approximately $9,000 for wage increases and approximately $4,300 for other items, shirts, aprons, and we did have an additional holiday, Martin Luther King Day. If the school committee is in agreement, the following motion is recommended for approval.
I move to approve the three-year contract between the Douglas School Committee and the Teamsters Local Union Number 170 and the custodial workers and cafeteria workers beginning July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2020 as outlined on the attached MOAs delineated the changes and the union members' vote. Wage increases to be as follows for both units: fiscal year 2018, 1%, fiscal year 2019, 1.5%, fiscal year 2020, 1.5%.
Second.
Any questions? for discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
Okay,
that
thank you very
brings-
much.
Now it's all you, Mrs. Keegan.
Oh, still
Oh,
me?
no, we have one more, I think, right?
Oh, no, that's it. No, we're all done.
Oh. So we took off the, we took off
Oh, no,
the
we just did
proposal.
those.
This one here to add as a foreign language as a graduation requirement, that.
Oh,
we
yeah,
took
that came off, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, just a reminder that, actually.
okay, didn't even know
right,
you-
We talked
you didn't-
about that, I can't remember. Okay.
Yeah, guess you still have the old one, okay.
I must have the original one.
Okay. For this evening, I only have 2 reclassifications. FY 2018 reclassifications number 7, and the first one is, it was discharged to the incorrect object code, the $120, and the $2,205, we're actually moving that out of the regular ed transportation line, which is in deficit right now. That's a separately voted warrant article, and moving it into our operating budget. It's a small amount, and it's due to the extra trips that we never used to get charged for, that we were suddenly being charged for this year, that we aren't gonna have next year, so we removed them from the budget. So, because we've made some changes so that we wouldn't have to do that anymore. And that's it. So we had already paid this out of that, and we're actually reclassing it over to the general fund. Yeah, okay.
Any questions?
I move that we approve the FY 2018 reclassification number 7, dated March 21st, 2018.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I also provided for you this evening the general fund budget report. You know, we're still in good stead. We're getting close to June 30th, thank goodness, in some ways. We're just over 97% spent or encumbered. Of course, over, you know, a large portion of the budget is salaries, and obviously, we encumber that right from the beginning, so I don't see anything to be concerned about at this point. Anybody had any other questions?
You had made some notes on the bottom of page 24. I'm just trying to figure out what those were relative to the last page. And if we can take it offline.
Oh, no, that is the last really budget page. And this is, I have to do this all the time because the way Munis is set up, unfortunately, as you can see, there's no such thing as a total operating budget figure. This is a Munis issue. So I have to take the bottom line, and I have to always subtract out
subtracting out.
transportation. For 6 years, I've been doing that.
Thank you, okay.
Drives me nuts, but, yeah, I'm trying to get that addressed, but to no avail.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And lastly, and this will be really quick, this is the FY 2017 DESE end of the year financial report audit, and there's nothing there. That's great. So no findings, no nothing. So usually there's something, because it's such a tiny report, my eyes go down a line and I put something on the wrong line and they have to tell me to amend the line. But I guess I must have worn, I don't know, magnifying glasses or something. So that was it. I made sure I provided that to you
Thank you.
as well. And actually, I don't recall, did I give you guys a copy of, because I do every year, of the final end of the year report? Did I bring that in for all of you for FY 17? I can't even remember.
Put it in like a special binder.
I did it so early that
I feel like so.
I got it done really early this
I
year
don't
as well.
recall. It's been a
Okay.
long time though since.
Well, if
we
one
know.
of you, keeps
I can
on,
go
if you can
back.
let me know,
Yeah.
or, yeah,
We'll go
I'd be
back.
happy to give you a copy of it.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, and that's all that I have.
If I could just jump in and recognize Courtney for negotiating with the Teamsters, the cafeteria and custodians, and bringing those to closure, and that we're in a good position now that all 3 bargaining units are under contract for this year and 2 additional years. So we're happy about that. We thank all of our employees for their participation in the negotiations as well.
And we will be processing the retros. I'm hoping next week to do cafeteria and custodial. We're hoping, we need to work that out with Jean. And then probably the following pay, we'll have all of the teachers all caught up as well. We want to try to get them everything as soon as we can, and certainly before the end of the fiscal year. We don't want anything to get near the end of the fiscal year, so that should work out very well. too, so.
Thank you. So the only other thing we didn't discuss was the need for a meeting next Wednesday. Where we are trying to stay within, we're trying to get the budget hammered out as quickly as we can, kind of have answers for our community, kind of before we head out into April vacation. You know, maybe give everybody a break. So what I think that we should do is plan on having a budget, it'll basically just be the budget on next Wednesday, after having our meeting before FinCom on Monday night, and make some decisions to move the district forward for FY19. So it shouldn't be a terribly long meeting. It'll be the only item on the agenda, I believe, if everybody is okay with that.
I'm available.
I should be.
Okay.
And I do think it's smart for us to do that. Because our public hearing is on April 4th, and rather than try to delay that public hearing, I think it's important to get that done, just so everyone is clear on where we stand with our budget.
Where's the public hearing?
Auditorium.
Here?
Usually in the auditorium, we have the public hearing set up. So we'll be looking to do that on April 4th, unless something comes up and there's a stumbling block, and then we'll move it if necessary. No CPR reports to put on the agenda to
Yeah, 'cause that'll
precipitate
mix it.
storms. So we'll plan then next week. I can send a message out so that Julie Finnegan knows as well if she can attend, and let Lauren know to put it.
So just to be clear, it's a public hearing that will be held in the auditorium, but the meeting will
Yes.
be here next week. And
Yeah,
it'll be
next
very
week's
quick,
yeah.
and it will be, you know,
Okay. Is there anything else? I know we have to sign those. Do we have to sign those in open session? It doesn't matter.
no, not with
In order
these.
to approve it.
Yeah, no, not that, so you're fine.
So there's nothing else on the agenda, so
I move we adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
It is 9:23.
Not bad.
Thank you, everybody.
That was a lot of stuff.